So we're in a transition, and we're now rebranding into BePositive. We're in a time, let's face it, where people are just being flogged with negativity and bad news and toxicity and just elevating to hatred. And what we want for this podcast is be positive as a mantra, as an attitude, as something that we can call out in those moments where we're challenged and remind ourselves that we do have optimism, hope, and encouragement. And so we invite you in. Enjoy the Be Positive podcast and enjoy hope, optimism, and encouragement.
Okay, so I lay him down by the flag, and he goes, I want everyone in the platoon to line up, and I want you to spit on the flag. My head's right next to the flag. I was so enraged. Talk about fury. I was so enraged. This is the third phase of boot camp. We're about to graduate. I'm looking at him, and as they're spitting on the flag, who's by the flag? Me, right? Yeah. So all 80 guys go through. Everyone's in formation, and I was standing up, and they're like, spit on the flag, guide. And I'm like, no, sir. And he goes, spit on the flag, guide. And I'm like, no, sir.
Welcome back to Be Positive. We're at Lion Air Museum, and it's one of my favorite spots in the world with Greg Munck, and we're unpacking really just the real life. Yes, your experience with surviving and experiencing trauma as a warrior, as a military individual that was sent to war, and all the damage that comes from that, even though you're the victor.
Right.
But like you said in our last segment, so brilliant that it's not limited to warriors, that day to day people are going to war, just not in a military fatigues, and they're fighting the battle.
Right.
And they're experiencing damage, either physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and moral damage.
Right.
You know, where they're going like, even if they're the cause, I think about some of my greatest decisions where I go like, Nelson, you idiot. You know better.
Right.
And then you make that decision and you create a swath of damage.
Right.
And then there's that look back. And I wanted to ask you the question really on being in that space where you realize you're damaged, you're carrying trauma, and you want restoration.
Right.
How do you find restoration? What comes to mind?
Yeah, well, first, I think what comes to mind is you have to personally have a well, you have to have a resource, you have to have a place where you go to for continuous strength, and the world doesn't provide that, So the first thing is the world doesn't provide comfort. It provides temporary fix to what we're feeling. And if you want a sustainable, lasting substance that's going to help you, it's through a relationship with God. And that's, for someone who's not close to God, it maybe sounds like, but
more of that Jesus stuff.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, it's at first you got to get right with God.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's the first answer. The first step is you getting right with God and having a relationship with the God who created you, and He loves you. And so that's the first step, is getting that inner peace. And then from that, God, when I said yes to God, I mean, I surrendered. That's what I call it. I surrendered. I tapped out. I gave up my pain. I gave up my hatred for my father. I gave up my own sin, my own issues that I caused in my own life, and the harm that I caused. I surrendered it to God and said, God, if you are who you are, Lord, help me be the man I know I can be. Right. And God has done that in my life. And if He can do it in my life, I know He can do it in other people's lives.
Well, look what, as you saw as a child growing up with your dad, where he tried to anesthetize life.
Yeah.
From a needle.
Right.
Or a bottom of the bottle.
Right.
But he was using that to deal with pain and trauma.
Yes.
That was his escape. And I see so many examples of that, not even just the addicts, but functional people. Balanced people, they get they bury themselves in work in order to deny pain or to push away pain, or they get scattered in chasing this or pursuing that. So I think that that restoration piece, it has to start with God, and you've got when you have somebody sitting across from you, Greg, and now you've traveled this road.
Right.
You have the experience to say, okay, you're at this tipping point of facing trauma. You're telling them to step into it. You're telling them to run from it. What's the message?
Well, like we say, that first step is you have to get right with God personally. And then secondly, you need to lean in to what has happened to you. And as uncomfortable as it is, you need to lean into it. And you need to surround yourself with people that have walked that road, a mentor, somebody that has had that experience that can speak to you on the other side of it. Yeah. And that has walked through it, and to give you just tools and nuggets and things to deal with it and to process it and to and to come to terms with it. Yeah. Or maybe you'll never come to terms with it, because that I think it's a phrase you say, right? I don't think you really come to terms. You learn how to deal with it. You learn how to deal with it in a more positive way that's not detrimental to you personally.
Well, you set the image of the boiling pot and the steam that rises from it.
Right.
And you can't capture the steam. You can't resist the steam. It's going to come out.
Right.
And so that's what I think of when you talk about it. And your own story in terms of the rage that you felt at certain times.
Right.
That beast is in you. And it's going to come out.
Right. Yeah.
And then your choice, if you recognize it, okay, how do I point that towards something good versus something destructive?
Right. We have a whole culture that like you were saying it, you said it so well about it, that says, hey, this is what you need to be doing with your life. You need to be focusing on this with your life. And God flips that script, when we, he's saying, no, like, let me be your giver of your life. Yeah. Let me give you substance. Let me give you hope. Let me give you, and when we have that pillar, when we have that spiritual pillar in our life, it's the foundation to take that next step into something else.
I think I don't know, the image in my mind when I have those moments in the mirror, and it's the realization, like if I'm mentoring or coaching somebody, and then I'm going, hold on, I need to do this.
Right.
That great reveal.
Right.
And where the mirror's looking back and going like, okay, you gotta follow your own coaching.
Right.
I say that to myself frequently. My wife periodically reminds me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny but I think it's in the part of doing too. It's like, we sometimes, we have this culture of just receiving. My life is about me receiving everything from everyone else, right? Yeah. I receive from this, and I get this entertainment. I receive this food. You do this for me. Everything's about receiving. When I think it's in the giving, Yeah. So the second part of that, get right with God. But two, besides getting help for your own stuff, you step into helping others with their stuff, and because you have experience, you have. God has taken you on this incredible journey, and he's written this tapestry of your life, and you have something to share with something else. You are worthy, and you have something to say, and I would really encourage you to, because that's when I've grown the most, when I'm helping. Like in my faith, yes, I can intake and read scripture and intake, but until you exercise that, until you live it out, and that's when I said yes as a volunteer in youth ministry. And God opened the door. It's incredible what God did with that, just saying yes. And I think in helping our own trauma, we need to help others.
Yeah.
We need to help others with theirs. And in that, it gives us reminders. It reminds us, I'm reminded all the time of, being in helping other people. It keeps me solid. It keeps me in the right. It keeps me on the right path when I'm focused on not just helping myself, but helping others.
How is it from the outside looking in? People could look at Greg Munck and think or say the words, well, he's infallible. He's a warrior. He's a pastor. He's leading and guiding, directing people. He's reaching out and giving, just like you're saying. But the perception is you don't have challenge. You don't have problems.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's funny. No. I've had lots of challenges, and I have lots of mistakes, and you were saying something earlier that, what about your father that you didn't, you know, what about you is like your father?
Yeah.
And the one thing I never wanted to do is I never wanted to disappoint my kids like my father disappointed me.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be that. So whenever I enter an issue with my children, it's so hard, it's so hard when to deal with that, and so
But the conviction of, I mean, you have those scars, you have those battle wounds that you don't want to scar your kids with.
Right, 100%. And so what you were saying just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Part of this discussion on facing trauma and restoring from trauma, the trigger word that I wanted to give you is consistency.
Yes.
And I'll share with you a Tony Robbins quote. It says, "It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. It's what we do consistently." So your opening statement, gosh, you need God to lead, guide, and direct, but it's not a one and done.
Right.
Okay, I accept Christ as my Savior. Now everything's good.
Yeah.
Now I don't have any challenges.
Right. And then, like you said, you asked me, I don't struggle, or the outside perception. Oh my gosh, no, there's still that daily struggle. But as I said, as I walk through all these things, as I experience my life, God I got these wins. I got these wins in my life. And one win led to another win. And then there were steps back. Yeah. And when I said earlier, it's like there's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you're going forward. And it's a word that I use all the time is consistency. Yeah. And I, without a shadow of a doubt, had this conviction, for my wife and my family and for the Lord. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when anything presses up against that, I want to choose that. And so I have been, as I have gotten older and as I've grown, I hopefully sin less than I did, but the enemy's always there to offer something up new, a new thing, a new
way to break
a new lust, a new pride, a new
distraction,
a new distraction. Absolutely. And so it's having consistency in your faith, and I love that word. And as I have stepped into ministry, as I went to Bible college, as I left a great job after the Marine Corps in business and took a step of faith into full-time ministry and did all these things, God has just affirmed my faith and giving me the feeling of and the assurance that I used earlier that it's going to be okay. I got you.
Yeah.
And
got you. The words that were breathed into you as you're on the boat heading to war, on the ship heading to war.
I got you. And so I live in that, and it's not easy though. I mean, it doesn't have its own trials, or I have issues or problems, or disagreements with my wife, or
never heard of that,
or firm fellowship, or what's the
So take me to let me go to the bookends. Greatest victory. What comes to mind?
Oh my gosh! Wow.
The story of victory.
Yeah, the greatest victory. I'm a softie, so I go to the love things, right? No, greatest victory is my wife.
Yeah.
That's been the greatest earthly joy that I've ever had. Is her. Yeah.
And you chased her.
I did. I chased her, and she led me to the feet of Jesus, and opened that door, challenged me, in our relationship when, at the time she wasn't walking with the Lord, when I met her. And then all of a sudden she recommits her life to Christ and she set some boundaries, and I'm like, this is stupid. What are you talking about? And then the Gulf War breaks out, and then, I start contemplating I might die. And then I go to the first Harvest Crusade and, with Greg Laurie and Chuck Smith, and over 5 nights I get saved. And she is just a rock in my life. She's my family, and like I had a family growing up, a blood family, but she became my family so quickly. Yeah. And she's been that for the past 32. We're celebrating our 32nd anniversary on Thursday.
She still kind of likes you.
Yeah. Who would have?
I love
look at a
story.
Clown like me. Who would have thought?
I love the story that you share in your book, The Guide, on how you, when you first saw her, you had that moment, that flashpoint of,
Yeah.
there's Kimbrey.
Yeah.
But she was in another relationship.
Yeah.
She had a boyfriend.
Yeah. She had another guy that she was on and off with, and then and so we hung out for a weekend, and she finally let him go.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
So that was great. But so
Greatest
victories. You
story.
say victories like the victory in my life is, meeting Kimbrey, reconciling with my father. My children.
Yeah.
Stepping away from a job that I loved, in business, making a really good money to go into full-time ministry, making almost, 75% less than what I did when I started. Gosh, that was back in 2003. So, so the victories are life victories. You know, it's hard to go. I think about physical victories, playing in a football championships in high school, and but it all goes, I think, wedding and kids, and those are the things that really matter. To me, those are the victories that I hold dear. And then starting Crossline Church and with JP back in 2005, and celebrating 19 years now, and like those are the victories that I really, that I say that's a victory to me. Because those are things that no one can take away from you.
Yeah. Opposite side, when you've been crushed.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, just like in the different phases in my life, there's been different crushings. As a child, it was my father and my mother, but more my father. And then in growing up, it was in boot camp and combat, it was, my drill instructors, and pushing you to do more than you think you can do. And then the darkness of humanity in combat, seeing that's crushing. Just, it's sad. Sad to see what happens. And then on the way back from the Gulf War, we stopped in Bangladesh, and just 150,000 people were killed and 1 million cattle, and just was disgusting. It was just horrible. And just crushing. And then later in my life, I would say crushing is I've been pretty blessed. There's disappointments with people you trust. I said probably the most crushing. There's people that come in your life and you trust them, and then friends are a big deal to me. And so again, more than family, not my immediate family, but and then so it's hard. I say those are the biggest ones.
Yeah. I think of those crushing moments, and I think of the times where you hear the whispers in your head. I can't do this. I can't do this. And in ministry, in church, I often reference that the church is absolutely perfect right up until people show up, right? And then it's messy.
Yes.
And then you have breaches of trust.
Yeah.
Then you have people that your friends that are so dear to you,
right? That
somehow, some way, it gets crossways.
Yeah, yeah, and it happens. It's funny that you're talking about this, and I was thinking, man, I've been so blessed, and I guess I'm at this place of contentment in my faith. That God has taken me on this journey as I look at my life, as I've talked about it these past 2 years, and we've written a book, and I'm doing this. There's this. I'm so content. So when you ask a question like now, what's your biggest thing? Like, man, I've been through so much. There's nothing you can do that's going to hurt me. You can't hurt me because I got Jesus. There's that popular book right now, that stud special force guy, Coggins. I think.
Goggins, yeah.
Yeah, I got Goggins. You can't hurt me. It's like, but I want to flip that. It's not as you can't hurt me because the living God lives inside of me, and I know it. I've seen Him work, and I trust Him because I know if He's pulled me through the stuff that I've been through, and I'm on the other side of it, that He's going to pull me through again. Yeah. And that's what I rest in that. So when you ask the question, what is crushing? I'm sure I could sit here and think of the bad things that are, there's tough things that are happening, but I don't want to focus on, and I don't want to forget them. and like live in la la land.
Right.
And they're happening, but I don't let those occupy my time and space.
Yeah.
I let the things of the things of the good things in my life that he's put, I let those occupy my time and space.
Yeah. Well, and where I'm going with that is the restoration.
Yeah.
And there is the promise. I don't know if I subscribe to Goggins' title, "You Can't Hurt Me."
Right.
I can get hurt.
Yes. Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, mentally.
I think emotionally is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. The physical, all day long, break my bones, but you can just crush my soul, like you're saying. The crushing soul things are way worse.
Yeah.
You know, that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's whoever came up with that is stupid.
Stupid. Well, and I look to the restoration part of this message in terms of we're talking about trauma, and we're talking about regardless of cause, whether it's warfare or battling in life, that there is a restoration, that there is, and that's what you are relying on is okay, you are going to get hurt. You're going to get damaged along the way, but then you can restore. You can step forward with that confidence. And it just echoes in my mind that, what you said about as you were shipping out to go to war, and you heard the words, "I've got you."
Yeah. And it's
you're going to be damaged.
It's hard to, people ask me, Greg, would you go through it again? Would you, what would you change? What would you change with your life?
Yeah.
And then I tell them, and I say, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? There's some things, there's some trauma that I experienced that I'd rather not have gone through. Absolutely. Who wants that? But each thing that's happened to me, everything that's happened to me, the good, the bad, and ugly of my life, it's formed who I am. And it propels me for the next thing in life, and it enables me to handle the next thing that's coming, because I can tell you what, we are guaranteed suffering. Yeah. Suffering is going to come in some shape or form in your life. And if you don't have the building blocks of life, if you don't have a foundation in Christ, a relationship with God, if you're not helping other people involved in being a Paul to someone else, discipling or building into someone else, or serving or getting involved, then you're just intaking, and you can't just intake. You need to work it out.
How were you as a coach?
I was a coach. I was probably how I seem when I get animated here. Yeah. Very animated, very loud on the sideline. Like my guys could hear me on the field, and so I coach like I parent. And my kids, I'm not super strict. I'm firm, but very loving. Yeah. I'm a big teddy bear. Yeah. And so I coach like that. I have expectations and
I think of my favorite Roosevelt quote, which is "Speak softly and carry a big stick."
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I speak softly. And I have a big stick, but I don't think I speak softly. I'm loud, and so I was the motivator, with the kids. I'm coaching, and then even as a player, I played out of my mind. I was like super emotional, and
And as a pastor, do you work people up into that froth as far as stepping forward then in their faith?
I really. I wouldn't say I'm a teacher. I would say I'm a shepherd and an exhorter. Like people say, "What?" I think I'm an exhorter. I really want to bring, hey, this has been so incredible for me. It could be the same for you. Yeah. Like that mentality. I want to really just exhort you into the kingdom of God and say and proclaim that this is so. Yeah, I would say a lot of, I can be very poignant and loving and caring, but I can be very excited and passionate and exuberant about who God is and who He needs to be in your life.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the conviction as well. We're here at the Lion Air Museum. To the back of you is our flag. It's waving in the wind, and you have a flag story. I want to share that story. Tell us your flag story.
Yeah, sure. Well, gosh, it's hard to tell without getting so emotional. I just talk about being excited. I was in the boot camp, and I was the guide, And the guide is the person that carries the guidon. The guidon is the platoon flag, and we were platoon 2025. And so we were in third phase of boot camp, which is the last phase, and we were marching on the parade deck, doing our final drill, getting ready for our final drill. And we weren't doing anything right, and nothing we did was right, and we were just really upsetting the drill instructors. They're cussing at us, they're yelling at us, and every expletive, this, and they tell us to stop and put our covers down, button up our camos, and look like first phase recruits, and we were all upset about that. And then he's like, what, I'm so disgusted with you. We're going to the sand pit. And we're like, oh no, the sand pit. Yeah. The sand pit is like this massive 50-yard field of sand that's been refined over a century of Marines training, and so we go to the sand pit, and he lines us up, and I stick my guide on. It's the red flag on a flagpole, and I carry it with me everywhere. It goes with me everywhere, and this represented, you've heard my story a little bit, but this represents a new life for me. I'm gonna be the best I can be. And I'm the guide. I'm the leader of the platoon. Man, this is my new life. Forget my parents and my family and all that junk. I'm paving a new way. So it meant a lot to me. Yeah. So I stick the flag in the ground, and they start working us out. They're jumping jacks. 5, 4, 2, 1. Leg lifts. 5, 4. You can't move. They're saying things: push-ups, sit-ups, burpees. You can't move quick enough. Jumping jacks, and you're just up and down, going. And they say they give you 10 seconds, but they give you 2. And
just a beat.
Literally, so after 40 minutes of this, 40 minutes. There's just sand everywhere in the air, and you're covered, like your sweat, and there's just in every orifice there's sand, and then you're just trying to catch your breath, and all of a sudden we stop. The drill instructor is yelling, and he's we're all trying to catch our breath, and as all the DIs, there was 4 of them, and they're just all yelling at us, and then he grabs the platoon flag, and he's walking back and forth with it in front of the platoon. And he goes, "You're the worst platoon I've ever had in my entire life. Like if there's Marines turning over in their grave. They're so embarrassing." Yeah. And he takes that flag and he grabs it, he puts it over his head, and he puts it down to his knee as hard as he can, and he snaps the platoon flag. And Rob, talk about fury. Yeah. Something snapped in me, but I couldn't kill the drill instructor or beat him up or. And so. And then I lunge, and he throws it on the ground, and I lunge for the flag. He's like, "As you were, guide, as you were." And then he goes, "If you love the flag so much, why don't you lay down by it?" And so it's on the ground, and I lay down by the flag. And I'm like, okay. So I lay him down by the flag, on my back. And he goes, "I want everyone in the platoon to line up, and I want you to spit on the flag." And so there I was, my head's right next to the flag, and he just told everyone to line up and spit on the flag. And so I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I was so enraged. Talk about fury. I was so enraged. This is the third phase of boot camp. We're about to graduate, and we're playing these games. I was so upset, and so the guys are walking through, and I'm looking at these guys on the ground with death eyes. Like if I had lasers in my eyes, they'd be dead if they spit on the flag. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm looking at them, and so a couple guys, the squad leaders came through. They didn't spit on the flag, and the drill instructors took those guys and worked them out. But then other guys, they just afraid of what the DIs would do, spit on the flag. Most of the guys spit on the flag, so they're just spitting on the flag. And as they're spitting on the flag, who's by the flag? Me, right? Yeah. So all 80 guys go through. Most of them spit on the flag, and they're all in formation, and they're sitting there. Then all of a sudden, everyone's in formation now. The squad leaders, they stop them from getting work because they didn't spit on the flag, and they put them in formation. I'm standing there in front of the whole platoon's right in front of me, and the drill instructors, and he's like, and they pick me up, and and they put me on my knees. No, I was standing up, and they're like, "Spit on the flag, guide." And I'm like, "No, sir." And he goes, "Spit on the flag, guide." And I'm like, "No, sir." And there's this I'm giving you a direct order. I told you to spit on the flag, guide. I will put you back in the net. If you don't want to go back into the next phase or get on medical or get kicked back, because then you have to
start over
or start back the next phase. And I was the guy, and I didn't want to lose it. And I'm like, "No, sir, I'm not going to spit on the flag." And I got tears in my eyes and this thing. And then the other drill instructors, "It's a direct order. You're going to spit on this flag right now." And they get behind me, and they put their knees in the back of my knees, and they bring me to my knees, and they're pushing on my shoulders, pushing my head to the flag. They're spit on the flag, guide. And I'm like, no, sir. And I'm starting to cry, and like the rage we're talking about, the fury. I'm just like, spit on the flag, no, sir. I'm screaming, spit on the flag, guide. It's a direct order. We'll kick him out. They're all yelling, spit on the flag. And I'm like, no, sir, I'm not going to spit on the flag. And he gets me up. They pick me up, and they're like, that's why you're guide. That's why you're guide. And I'm like all pumped up, and like, I don't know what to do, with the excitement. And I'm just in thing, and I pick up the flag, and I pick up the flag, and I raise it up in front of the platoon, and I'm like, this is our family, this is our country, this is the Marine Corps, and they're like, hoorah, and they're shouting, and it was just this powerful moment. And in that process, I remember one of them, and he's like, why won't you spit on the flag? Yeah. He goes, because I love the flag, sir. And because I love it. And it's just like, it's amazing that whole process it took me through. And I remember holding the flag up with the platoon and saying hoorah, and like pointing to the guys, that to spit on the flag. But at the end of the day, it was this exercise in seeing who is going to make who is going to make the right decision in a tough, difficult time. Are you going to listen to what's being told to you and go against what you know is wrong? And when do you navigate that? When do you disobey? When do you not listen? And when it's something that's so egregious as what they were trying to do, I'm not going to listen to that. Do whatever you have to do. Kick me back. I'm not going to spit on the flag.
And it's the perfect story for the end of our show here in terms of when Satan is telling you to spit on the flag, telling you to spit on your God, spit on your belief, disqualifying you, saying, Greg, you're not enough. You don't deserve. Do this. Come on, give in. In threatening you and teasing you, and then having that conviction coming full circle on dealing with whatever's in front of you, that trauma, and having that conviction, okay, God is right with me.
Yes.
He's right by my side.
Yes.
I can step forward.
Yes.
I can continue on. I won't give up. I won't do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There you have it. The very purpose of BePositive, and the stories that we're going to continue to share are on optimism, hope, and encouragement. As we record here from the Lion Air Museum, we invite you to join us. We thank you for joining us. Be positive. Thanks for joining us on the BePositive podcast. You can find us at YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, on social media at BePositive Cause, or at our website, bepositive.life. This is the home of optimism, hope, and encouragement. We invite you to join us and become an ambassador of optimism.